pack quite.
Hello and welcome back to our elimination rounds here. This is losers bracket round 3, and I'm Lights Out Ace. I'm back, and Beardris is still here with me.
Yep, still here, still casting. Gonna be here all day.
Hey, you're really putting in the long hours today. I remember last invitational we didn't have that many casters, and I just had to go for 7 hours in a row.
Yeah, fortunately today has not been that long. I'm having a feeling tomorrow will be a little bit longer, but hopefully we'll have some casting help. Getting into the game though, really quick before we miss any of these key turns, we have Jay Knight here playing that armory deck we had mentioned versus Sir Rhino's Felon control list that he is more or less known for.
Yeah, so Serrano kind of has an uphill battle going for him here. His main deck is not configured against a relic weapon based deck. He has a lot of unit removal, and the armory deck doesn't have a whole lot of units, and all of his lightning strikes are in his sideboard.
Yeah, true. It is interesting you mentioned that though, because we do see out of Jay Knight just power, a Recano Artisan, and a Statuary Maiden.
Yeah, that's
So
about the best that Serrano can hope for.
yeah, really though, like he's got the permafrost at least to go ahead and lock the Statuary Maiden down if he wants, and he can start pushing his very slow 2 damage.
Yeah,
Uh,
and Serrano finds a Champion of Cunning, which is one of his better cards here. It's just large enough to avoid most relic weapons and can attack for a lot of damage in a short amount of time.
yeah, very true. And we do see Jay Knight picking up another Recano Artisan. So when he finds those weapons, they are going to be beefy. But
Yeah, they will be able to kill 5/5s.
yeah, I would hope that they can kill some 5/5s at that point, but they definitely should be able to. Even the little sword of Icarios will be 5/4s at that point, so be doing a lot better.
Yeah, I'm almost surprised, given that Serrano didn't just throw down the Champion. Like, normally you want to wait until it can have the flying and Aegis, but the Aegis isn't going to do a whole lot against relic weapons. So I kind of like just throwing down the 5/5 for 5 on this turn.
Yeah, I kind of do as well, and like I'm wondering if that's what he's like, considering right now. He's just like looking at it and wondering if he should have played it, or he's doing that for sigil considerations, for which he wants to hit 5 on first. Are we gonna see his lightning storm get played? I guess his fear may be that if he lightning storms, then the bloodcaster can get picked up with a. But other than that, I'm not quite sure. Maybe he's saving it for this Icaria. That might
Yeah,
prove to be pretty useful.
yeah, his other removal spell in hand, Permafrost, does nothing against Icaria. You can't even cast it to pop the Aegis because of the endurance.
Nope. Akari's endurance makes it so that she cannot be permafrosted, which is the same problem. It's the same problem Rhino's going to have regardless in a way. Like this Akari is coming down big and hot, and he doesn't have an answer here, and he really needs to find an answer to this card.
Yeah, I think that if J Knight ever draws a relic weapon now, and it's going to be +7/+7, that he should be able to win the game with just that alone.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, actually, he can clear the Icaria here if he goes ahead and swings with the 3/5. Yeah, and he's going to do this. He's going to offer the trade. We'll see the block. We'll see the Varus favor come down, and then the lightning storm to clean it up.
Yeah, so J Knight now doesn't have very much going on, and Serrano is going to be able to ultimate this Bloodcaster next turn. So he certainly has a very real shot in this game as long as he continues to dodge something like a 15/15 sort of the Sky King.
Yeah, very true. We're waiting to see. Ooh, 9/9 Valkyrie Enforcer. Gonna be countered by the
That's
permafrost though.
Yeah, that's the worst. You hate it when your Icaria Warcry hits Valkyrie Enforcer. Like, you need to run Valkyrie Enforcer just because silence is so important and the card is so efficient. But whenever it sucks up your Warcries instead of a relic weapon, it's really bad times. And here you're seeing J Knight, all of those Warcries basically going to waste under that permafrost.
Yeah, interesting consideration for Rhino here. Is he willing to run the Champion of Cunning out into the possible harsh rule / removal that J Knight can dredge up, or is he gonna hold it until he can get the Aegis down?
Yeah, that is a consideration. Yeah, if you wait until you have the fifth primal, then you are protected from harsh rule. But he doesn't have a fifth primal source in hand right now. So the question is whether he can afford to wait until he has it.
Yeah, with the Bloodcaster ult down now permanently due to the silence, I feel like I'm with Rhino here. You just play that Shadow Sigil, get that extra damage on your units, and start.
Yeah, you just kind of slam it and cross your fingers. And here, J Knight doesn't have it. So Serrano now just has to fade one more turn of Harsh Rule.
Yeah, we'll see if he can bring it up. And J Knight unfortunately cannot. He only finds a torch. So Sir Rhino, I don't know if you call it stealing away a game, but I definitely feel like this matchup is more favored towards Armory than it is to the control player.
Yeah, definitely, and especially with all of his lightning strikes in the sideboard. So now he gets to bring in lightning strike and sabotage, and have a lot better plan against the relic weapons.
Yeah, speaking of that plan, let's go ahead and check out J Knight's sideboard and see what he can bring onto the plan. I just want to note in our document, his deck is called Traditional Armory. I find it very funny with some of the included cards in here.
Throne Warden, traditional armory, that card that just came out this week.
Yeah, was Statue Mermaid played in Traditional Armory? Like, is that an Armory card?
Traditionally, they play one or two Steward of the Past to rise to the challenge for. So Statuary Maiden is kind of taking the place there of the Void hosing unit.
Okay, interesting. Let's go ahead and check this out, though. We got a Char Chain Flail on the side. We got 3 Suffocates, a single Annihilate, 4 Plagues, 2 Furnace Mages, 2 Steward of the Past, a Smuggler's Stash, and a Starsteel Die Show.
I think this is less about what cards you want to bring in and what cards you want to bring out. Cards like Annihilate and Vanquish, and even a couple of the harsh rules are probably coming out just because they're not very effective against Felon Control. Instead of those, he's putting in the relic weapons, he's putting in the Smuggler Stash, he's putting in the Suffocate, like removal spells that actually work on Sir Rhino's things.
Yeah, true. I'm curious to see if he really wants to play the Suffocates. So I mean, I guess he does here, and they do clean up like the small Ricano Artisans. But unless I'm mistaken, most of his deck can dodge this. I guess the Statuary Maiden is a 2/4, so that is a big benefit. But the Throne Wardens and the Akaria are certainly too big, and he's considering how many Suffocates he wants to bring in. Cards you're probably bringing in here.
Well, so
I have to imagine.
they're bringing the Suffocates against Sir Rhinos to kill Blackside Harbinger and Felon Bloodcasters. I think Sir
Oh,
Rhino doesn't want Suffocates anywhere near his deck. You're
well,
right there for sure.
well, he has 2 of them in his list, interestingly enough, and he has none. Or wait, oh no, no wonder I am looking at 2 different people. This is why I have J Knight's list pulled up, but I'm actually watching Rhino sideboard.
Yeah, Rhino needs to bring in all of his anti-relic weapon cards, like the 3 sabotages, the 2 lightning strikes, and then he can bring in another champion of cunning and a misfail Drake for more pressure, more like just bigger threats. And he looks like he'll even bring in Celestial Omen and Azadel's Gift and kind of go for the long game grind out plan.
Yeah, he is going for this long game grind out plan. And I like the Vara in this list. Vara could prove to be very useful against a deck like Armory.
Yeah, and we'll see which player's plan is more effective in game 2 here. It looks like they're getting ready to challenge each other.
Yeah, we are about to go into the challenge. We did see a lot of those cards brought in. We saw the Sabotages brought in. We saw the Lightning Strikes, the extra Champion of Cunning, the Azendel's Gift. We'll see if it pays off for Rhino. Like he definitely got off of that first game, and I do feel like his deck is much better in this matchup post board.
Yeah, almost certainly. Although, let's not discount J Knight's addition of the extra Smuggler Stash and Relic Weapons. Those are very good cards in the matchup as well.
Yeah, J Knight having the Smuggler Stash in his sideboard is huge. Like I can't imagine you're not bringing that in. Like that's going to provide so much value.
Yeah, certainly one of your better cards.
Yeah, and we do see getting into the game here, J Knight with a nice little 4-power hand, got the Sword of Ikaria and the Valkyrie Enforcer to handle anything early.
And Sir Rhino, not a whole lot going on, but he has a Sabotage, which is one of his better cards. So he probably won't fire that off right away, and will wait until J Knight might have some Relic Weapons to play.
Yeah, he's going to wait until probably, I imagine he'll fire that off on like turn 3 or 4, you think? Like maybe he drops it this turn, but I kind of like holding it for a couple turns to see if anything comes up. It lets you take Sabotage lets you take a spell or an attachment, correct?
Yes, so
Yeah,
any
so
non-unit. Oh, wow, and a tough choice here. Like, he has to take the Sword of Ikaria because there's no other way to deal with it, but he knows that J Knight has a Smuggler Stash and will be able to get it back later.
yeah, and based on that play, I feel like J Knight can safely get this Valkyrie Enforcer down if he wants to. Like, if Rhino's that desperate to pull the Sword of Ikaria instead of the stash, it really does mean he doesn't have the immediate answer.
Yeah, it's basically a dead giveaway that your opponent doesn't have any units in their hand, because any unit in Sir Rhino's deck would be able to destroy that Sword of Ikaria.
Yeah, and we see there's a Suffocate right there out of J Knight coming in from the sideboard. and that's going to help a lot with the Steward of the Past. We're gonna see this the statuary maid get big here actually.
Yeah, 4/6 statuary maiden. It's safe to put a cudgel on it in this matchup because Serino is not playing Justice, and that does not put it in vanquish range.
Well, in fact, it's actually less safe to not put it on there because you're still vulnerable to suffocate until you put the cudgel on there and get the attack up.
A very good point. So, and Black Sky Harbinger can't even block statuary maiden due to the deadly.
Oh, and here we go. Here comes the beginning of what may look like the end here. 5-1 Char Chain Flail coming down, and Sir Rhino, he at least has the Black Sky Harb to pick off the Char Chain Flail, but he also knows that there is that Smuggler Stash lurking around in J Knight's hand, which we can only assume he's going to go ahead and go fish out here in just a second.
Well, first we need to suffocate that Black Sky Harbinger and get a 6/8 statuary maiden.
Yeah, true. He's considering if he wants to put it on there, if he wants to put it on the Valkyrie Enforcer. And I actually kind of like it on the Valkyrie Enforcer. Like, the extra damage here is very nice, but making your units invulnerable to suffocate that's actually pretty relevant. Definitely since Sir Rhino, I think he did actually keep the suffocates in.
Oh, J Knight does not play the Vulcan Enforcer, so he is not presenting lethal here. He's being really, really cautious instead.
Yeah, this is a very interesting line here from him. Not go ahead and represent lethal. I guess he's not too worried about it since he has the. Well, actually, he is representing lethal because if he smuggler stashes, if Rhino doesn't play a unit, if he smuggler stashes the Char Chain Flail back, he can just play it for 0, right? And it still is a 5-1.
You actually need to spend at least 1 power on a power surge card, I believe.
Oh, do you?
I'm fairly certain you won't be able to play the flail here. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so he does have to spend at least 1 power to play it. So he unfortunately, yeah, if he had hit a power this turn, he would have had lethal off of that, but instead he is slightly missing lethal damage. But still, I mean, he has 2 Valkyrie Enforcers, the Char Chain Flail came back to his hand, and he's got the Sword of Ikaria. Like, Rhino knows, unfortunately, this game is just over.
Yeah, he doesn't have any way to stop both the Statuary Maiden's lethal attack and then the Relic Weapon's lethal attack immediately afterwards.
Yeah, and that game was actually more indicative of what we were talking about earlier, where we were mentioning that J Knight, the Armory player, and the Armory deck in general is much more of a heavy favorite in control. And even though Sir Rhino's board does make it a lot better, we saw J Knight's board also change his game greatly. Like, just the inclusion of that extra smuggler stash. Like, he does have 2 in the main board, but it's possible that that was the one he needed. And those smuggler stashes put in so much work in this matchup. Like, any of the control mirrors, or not mirrors per se, although in a weird way, isn't Armory like a control deck? Like, it seems to function like a control deck to me.
Yeah, I mean, it is the reactive. Like, it plays the control in most of its matchups, so it's not a traditional control deck, but I'd say Armory is definitely a control deck.
Yeah, it's not it's definitely not a traditional control deck by any stretch of the imagination, but in a way, it is a control deck. Like, your goal is to establish weapons and then clear the board so that you can actually put those weapons into your opponent's face.
Yeah, so looking at Sir Rhino's deck here, he does have 4 Steward of the Past, 4 Champion of Cunning, 4 Black Sky Harbinger, 4 Felon Bloodcaster. Like, he has enough units to put some pressure on those relic weapons now. Like, postboard, he's definitely not as likely to just get run over, but he just didn't find any of those big fatties. And the few units he did find just got suffocated and turned into cudgels.
Yeah. Oh man, we're gonna see it come back in. I wonder what he's gonna cut. Maybe a suffocate. I'm not complete. Ooh, or actually, he decides he wants an extra suffocate. Interesting.
Uh,
I'm not too sure about that. He ends up cutting it back, but did see that. The Snow Crush Animus came back in, so he pulled it out for game 2. I noticed, but he's decided that the Snow Crush Animus is good enough to bring in place of one of the 2 Staff of 5 armor.
That's a pretty good summation of what the card does in this matchup if you don't have a unit up to block.
Yeah, really. I mean, it just gets run over by Armory. Like, Staff is it's such a good card, but it is just very vulnerable. Like, you have to be very like solidified in your board position to really be able to take advantage of it. But you kind of sacrifice. There's just something about it. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Staff of Stories, which is weird because when I first saw the card, I thought I would love it, but I guess it's just the way that the game actually plays out doesn't make me like it nearly as much.
Yeah, when you're ahead, it's the best possible card, and when you're behind, it's worse. That's like the worst possible card.
Yeah, and that's what seems counterproductive to me in a way because sometimes when you're behind, that's when you really need the card draw the most, and then it's just a dead card. But either way, jumping into game two here, we see J Knight starting off a little power strapped. Both players actually, although Rhino does have the Seek power and now two favors, so certainly not hurting on power over here.
Yeah, Rhino's going to be able to develop fine, and this is the deciding game. This is game three. So
Oh yeah,
he decided to keep his hand because it had a lightning strike and a sabotage, so he can interact with a lot of weapons from J Knight.
yeah, very true. I'm curious to see. So if Rhino were to fire off a sabotage right now, in theory, what would you pull?
I think that you would take the Rise to challenge. Vara's favor can take care of Auric Runehammer easily enough.
Yeah, and that's fair. Now that you don't have Vara's favor, what would you pull?
Well, now you're asking the real questions here. So Serrano has a Steward of the Past that matches up well against the Runehammer. So I think that you still just take the Rise to the challenge.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair assessment. I was just curious as to what you would do because like that Runehammer does at least pose some threat, though. You are correct. Like the Steward of the Past will be able to handle it fairly easily.
And Serrano is being very patient with his sabotage, which I think is very good. Like there are certain key cards you need to hit, like large relic weapons like Starseal Light Show or Sword of the Sky King and Smuggler's Stash. So like if you can hit one of those with your sabotage, that's much better than just hitting a random Auric Runehammer or Rise to the Challenge.
Yeah, and it's very possible if J Knight had hit a fourth power here. I assume he still would have fired off the Suffocate, but we can imagine Sir Rhino will probably just hold this sabotage until after he sees a card like Rise go off, and then he'll just go ahead and fish out whichever card he Rise to the challenge.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to have a super power efficient answer. Like you just spent one and they spent four.
Yeah, they spent four, and generally they commit like a full turn to just playing it because if he had the power to establish it. And we do see him go ahead and drop it early. So looking at his choices here, I'm pretty sure you take Rise here definitely now. Like even though the Auric could present a threat next turn, if J Knight gets the power down, uh,
I think even if he found it, J Knight isn't just going to hammer face. It's too important to use as a removal spell to just because if you throw it out there against Felon, they're going to have a Vara's Favor or a Black Sky Harbinger or something and just kill it for free.
yeah, not only that, but the Mistveil Drake as like a 7 drop will just be able to come out as a 6/6 and be very well matched against that. And even this Black Sky Harbinger right here.
Yeah, the Harbinger, if he plays it, is going to get hit by Suffocate.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I kind of like firing off the Black Sky Harp here. Like you get something down into play, you clean up his unit, and then
Yeah, I think you definitely Harbinger or Staff. Like if you play the Staff, it forces J Knight to play his Runehammer, and then your Black Sky can kill the Auric Runehammer and the kind of Weaponsmith.
yeah, that's very true. Like that's very true. That could be a very nice pickup for him. And we see Sir Rhino just opt to be patient, and this is going to pay off a little bit since he will be able to go ahead and Death Strike down the Statuary Maiden.
Yep, and here's Rhino. Looks like he's still trying to bait out the Runehammer while preserving his Staff of Stories. Like maybe J Knight has some way to combine the Runehammer with another damage source to kill this. Or oh no. Actually, you know what happened is Rhino suffocate. Rhino knew about the Suffocate from his sabotage a few turns ago, so he didn't want to run Black Sky Harbinger out into that.
Yeah,
That's
very true though. Very true. Like you did bring up that the Suffocate would take care of the Black Sky Harp very easily, and Rhino also respecting that, so deciding to hang on to the unit. Really just trying to fish out his 7th power here so that he can go ahead and get this 6/6 Mistveil Drake down with Aegis, because that's going to be a very hard unit for J Knight to deal with. Even the Ikaria is actually outmatched by it in the air.
Yeah. So J Knight has a bunch of boosted weapons in his deck, but none of them are able to take out both this champion and this Mistveil Drake. Like none of them are large enough to kill both of those. So he's just getting a Rune Hammer.
Yeah, very true. The Runehammer will at least eat one of the units, but yeah, it's gonna die on the way back. So we're playing like a little interesting dance here. Like it's interesting to see how each player is trying to like pace out their threats and find just the right answers.
And here's what we were talking about earlier, where this Aegis doesn't matter when your opponent has a big relic weapon.
Yep, Aegis not very good against relic weapons, unfortunately. But oh, Rhino. Oh, Rhino.
So
Now
this
you have
Azen
choices.
this Azendel's gift actually makes it so that J Knight's best card, Smuggler Stash, does nothing. Like he can Smuggler Stash back all the value in the world, but when you just have to discard it at end of turn before you can play it, it doesn't matter. So that gift is just crucial, and I think probably wins Serrano the game straight up here.
Yeah, not only that, but J Knight here hoping that he could get the Sakari out at some point to at least put some pressure on top of Rhino, and it's just gonna get chucked this turn. Like he's gonna have to pitch the card. So now he's just trying to figure out what he can do about the situation. Decides to fire off the harsh rule to clean up the Harbinger. But this Mistveil Drake from Rhino is going to put a very real clock on top of J Knight. And the Azendel's gift basically just seals the deal, honestly.
Yeah, even if J Knight draws another large relic weapon, like another Auric Runehammer, which all the Runehammers in his deck are 6/3s, and kills this Drake, well, and this champion, even if he rips 2 in a row, then Rhino still has a staff of stories to start drawing cards. Like, J Knight needs to rip 3 awesome cards in a row here.
Oh man, how must that feel when you're playing Harsh Rule as 5 power remove target Aegis?
Well, I actually have done that, and I can tell you it feels really bad.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that is going to be it for J Knight. He will be going down 2-1 to Sir Rhino. Sir Rhino making the unlikely run through some very tough matchups for himself.
Yeah, he just defeated 2 different Armory decks 2 rounds in a row with Felon Control, really showing his mastery of the deck that he created so long ago. I think that his sideboard in particular in this tournament is just brilliant.
Yeah, he's definitely done an excellent job with his deck construction and his sideboard construction, and it's really showing off. And like the level of his play is definitely showcased in games like that, where he just played that third game like flawlessly. Like he was playing his threats right, he was metering them out. Great sabotage there. Great playing around the suffocate, like even things like that, where you and me were much quicker to jump on a line of play that we hadn't realized. He already had the information due to the sabotage, and he was respecting that information and just playing a very solid game around it. So big props to him. Sad to see J Knight go, unfortunately, fellow caster and really good guy. One of the pioneers of the current Armory list. So seeing him go down with Armory is a little sad, and he was bringing the Throne Wardens, which everybody I know is excited about.
Yeah, if there's anything that is the mark of Sir Rhino, it's his incredible patience, which he showed in that last match. He just always waits for the best opportunity to play each of his cards.
Yeah, he really does though. Like he's a very well paced player. I guess that's a good way to put it. Is like his pacing is excellent. He knows how to play the game at the proper speed. Like he knows when to slow down and he knows when to turn up the pressure. He definitely showcased that in those games. Excellent job out of him.
Yeah, so it looks like the rest of this round is not quite wrapped up yet. So far we have Grizzly taking it 2-over Smune. So Grizzly's Stone Scar mid range is going to face off against Kampfkrot's Burn Queen deck. And Ilya K defeated Swagson 2-0. So Ilya K's Felon Scar is about to face off against Jock D's Stone Scar mid range Maulers deck.
Yeah, he made like we called it like a hybrid. Like I know he classified as a hybrid. I think we have it as Stone Scar mid range.
Yeah,
Particularly,
so Kenner classified it as Stone Scar midrange. I mean, which it is. It doesn't have any Flame Blast or Obliterates, but it does have 4 Stone Scar Mauls. So it's kind of a Stone Scar Mauler. So we went to his submission to see what he named it, and he didn't help out much because he named it Stone Scar Midrange Maulers.
yeah, really not very decisive there, unfortunately for us. So yeah, we just went ahead with Stone Scar mid range. So we'll be seeing him play that into Ilya K's list. And oh, do we have the final result? Think final result just came in with Unearthly going 2-1 over Vomi Stone Scar Mauler's list. Unearthly, obviously, we've seen him on camera, and most people know he's on that Rakano list.
Yep. So
One of the big
Unearthly
players.
defeated 2 Maulers decks in a row.
Yep, he also is on the like this is the feeding time for the Maulers. Like we had made the joke about it that Unearthly was just here to feed on the Maulers decks, but he really is just picking up his wins there. So he will be going on to play Shadowfire in the next round. Who is on what deck was on Shadowfire on again? Was he on
Shadowfire's on a Felon Scar control deck with a lot more one-ofs and tech choices than the traditional Felon Scar control deck.
Yeah, it served him decently well. Like he's at least pretty far in the losers bracket, so he only needs to get 2 more matches to get out of here. And one more for the day and to make it to top 8 for top 2s. So once again, we have Conf Crote or Conf Crote. Ah, man, I'm not going to stop doing that. Conf Crote versus Grizzly. There we go. We'll get it eventually. Conf Crote versus Grizzly. Shadowfire versus Unearthly. Jello Moose versus Sir Rhino. And Jocked versus Elia K for your losers bracket top 8. Those players will be playing for the right to come back tomorrow. Play day 2. They will be in the top 8 players after this round. So this is top 12 currently. And next round, we will have all of our players locked in. So we have one more round to go. Don't go anywhere, everybody. We will be back very soon with the next round, which will be our final round of the day. We'll be wrapping up after that.